Hey guys, I'm Kanika from Passion Peers and Fem Peers. Today, for the very first time, we're going to touch upon a topic. It's a very unique topic, and we're talking about stress, things that we run away from, but yet it comes back to us, and anxiety, and what's exactly happening to the young adults of today. That's why I have Professor Hagit with me from S P Jain. I'll let her introduce herself because there is something really great that she's going to speak to you guys about. So over to you, Professor Hagit. It would be great if you can tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you, Kanika. Hi, everyone. My name is Hagit BenAri, and as White mentioned, this is my space. This is the Green Room, and I operate it from SPJ, which is a business school. I am very, very happy to speak today about these very relevant topics that I hear day in and day out. Very, very relevant and very humanistic as well, I must say. My philosophy in life and at work is that we are all born with unlimited potential to succeed. So it's really about, finding your space and knowing how to navigate things in the way that you can actually succeed. And I really do believe that it is possible and that it is doable. I've been actually working as a life coach and a counselor for more than 15 years now, mostly with young adults, and very passionate, very happy to be seeing life transformation and, working with human experiences. Yes, so
Let's take it away.
all right.
So, Prof, I believe technology is supposed to make our lives easier, which it is. But I also feel that all the things that we're progressing towards, it's making lives more complex. It's making lives more stressful. I don't know how much you would agree to that because statistics show whether being in Singapore, and I hail from India originally. All these countries, young adults in Southeast Asia, everywhere around, are becoming more stressed. What's your take on these stress levels increasing? How do you see it changing?
Okay, yeah, Kanika, I absolutely agree that technology has really stormed into our life, and it's part and parcel of how we are living right now.
Yeah.
And there is always an element of addiction, like with anything that is done too excessively. I believe that screens could be one of those. I think very much that going back to basics, having communication, which is face to face, definitely has another element, which is, as I said, very humanistic and very real. And this is something that sometimes we kind of like tend to put aside.
Yeah.
So very much, like the whole notion of like interacting with people, the interpersonal connection, tend to be lost in the crowd when it comes to technology. So it's definitely something that we want to definitely look into.
Yeah.
Is one of the things. Then the second thing that you were talking about, you mentioned stress. Stress, it has always been part and parcel of life. And if in the past neuroscience and psychologists throughout have always talked about how we eliminate stress from our lives, now we know that it's really not about that. It's about our response to stress. It's about the mindset and how we can actually transform it and look at things from a growth mindset.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, the new research.
Yeah.
Asking the right questions and really looking at stress, not so much as the enemy,
Yeah.
but as okay, hello stress,
Yeah.
now what can I do about it? How
Yeah.
could my response be differently?
Yeah.
So that is definitely one of the things, that I can say. To add to that, I think that, in a very, very high pace, society in general, the level of work expectations that people are into,
Yeah.
they're stressed with assignments and succeeding and getting very good remarks and so on and so forth. Obviously stress also comes into the picture.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always mention is how important it is to look at the process in life, rather than just aiming to go to the edge, to the end. I always look at the mountain, think about it, reaching to end of the mountain, but actually looking back and seeing, you know, what have I done so far? What can I take from that?
Yeah.
What do I appreciate about the journey that I've actually gone through already? Is very, very important to be able to manage your life, to manage the levels of stress, and to manage basically whatever it is that you're going through.
I totally agree to that. I mean, as entrepreneurs ourselves, I have been in this where there used to be, when I started, there used to be a time when I was only caring about the result. And that's when I realized that the way I was responding to things in life, the way I was responding to stress, was very different than how I should have, because I was missing all the enjoyments of that journey, of how I was getting to my milestones. So I think that definitely adds on to the stress levels and something that we as young adults should start practicing, I guess, right?
Yes.
So, Prof, now we have established the fact that yes, there are stress levels, right? But there is a solution to everything. So what I would love to hear from you is some recommendations, tips on how we can adopt and practice positivity, how we can balance it all out.
Yeah, that's a terrific question. And I think that, again, looking at how everything seems to be rolling so fast nowadays, it is very important for us to take time for ourselves, to actually stop. And this is really entirely up to us. So the whole notion of like taking time to just be, through meditation, and the whole idea of being mindful. And mindfulness is really about not judging yourself, but just being in a space where you can actually appreciate your present moment, being in the here and now. You know, one of the things that I tend to do sometimes with people is really getting them to notice how they even eat their sandwich, let's say. Next time you eat your sandwich, you might want to actually look first at the sandwich itself. You know, just check the texture, you know, maybe check the weight of it. Before you take a bite, have a smell. Just really immerse yourself with the whole idea of like what it's like to eat your food. Because nowadays, you know, the way I see people eat their food is like, you take a bite and then you look at the screen. You take a bite and then you might be listening to other stuff. So we're doing a zillion things, you know, all at the same time. So really taking that time to just enjoy and really be with yourself, you know, in every action, everything that you do is gold. Another thing, Kanika, another way to actually cultivate, you know, a more positive way of living is to really be mindful of how you speak to yourself and what you say to yourself.
Right.
There's this, you know, funny, I like this phrase saying, you know, be careful of what you say to yourself because you're listening. And indeed, that is the case. A brain, which is very much subservient, you know, really taking everything in, you know. And it's not just like taking, you know, the positive things that we're saying to ourselves. In fact, it takes on everything, like a very loyal computer. And, you know, once it's in there, it has an effect on how we think and eventually on what we do and the way we behave.
Right.
So really being mindful to, you know, what you say to yourself. I believe that, you know, for my work with people, I've noticed that one of the central things is, you know, this, you know, internal message that sometimes we give ourselves, which is, I'm not good enough, or this is not enough.
Right.
And I find that to be very strong, because we are enough. We are enough. At any given time, we can always move forward. And there's always room for change. But at every given moment, wherever we are enough as we are.
That's a beautiful thought to have. And just one more thing, because there's this really beautiful word that you used over there, mindful. If you could just quickly define what exactly being mindful means. What is it?
Okay. So, I mean, think about it. It's two words actually that are being comprised together, which is mind and full. Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Your mind is full. And I think that mindfulness is really referring to the way you are at the given moment. It's about being in the present moment.
Right.
Something that, when we hear it sounds, oh, that's so simple. It's kind of like, of course I'm in a present moment, but are you really? It's really time for us to just be more, I guess, to challenge ourselves and to see really, when I'm sitting down, am I thinking about, what exam am I going to be, having tomorrow? Like, is my boyfriend or girlfriend going to, go out with me to that and so place, or, about an argument perhaps that I had with, my parents. I mean, there's a lot of thoughts that are actually streaming through our heads at every given moment. So mindfulness is actually the ability to tune in. So as much as we are checking out, because we all do that, our mind can be on autopilot, is the ability, the idea that we can actually zoom in again.
Right.
Check in.
Right.
And being back, in our present moment of where we are. Because, Karika, the best place to be and the best place where we can actually make things happen and where our power lies is in the present moment.
Yeah.
And that's why the concept of being mindful and being in the present is very, very important.
Definitely agree. And I think to put it into context for probably the young adults who would be watching this or are watching right now, I think the way to put it is that we always keep stressing about what's going to happen with my career or in the future. And exactly what you said, we can't predict it. You can't change what's going to happen in the future, but what you can do is in the present, right? So you can think and you can tune yourself into the present and just be there rather than stressing what's going to happen to me next, right? Great, so great. I think that's leading to a great thing then. So, Prof, I was coming across some very alarming stats, and there are these few mental health issue topics which have which have actually become a topic of concern. Now, let's start from India. That's one of the most upcoming economies, and after China, and yet they say that India is the most depressed country in the world at the moment. And talk about Singapore. In Singapore, they say that 1 in 8 people actually go through mental health issues, which makes it about 260,000 people over here who are going through mental health issues, which might manifest in some or the other way. I just wanted to get your thoughts because you've been in this space and you've been counseling so many young adults in and out. What are your thoughts about depression, topics like anxiety?
Okay. Yeah. First of all, pretty alarming stats.
Yeah.
Having said so, I mean, it can change,
yeah.
and we're here to instill some change as well. In general, the whole notion to me, from my experience, professional experience with people, is that we are all creatures of habits, of course. Having said so, we all are in a place where we want to strive higher. So when you think about Maslow hierarchy, a lot of the teenagers and young adults that you would see today might have already covered the grounds of having their physical needs being met, and they are satisfied in that sense. And when you move forward, you've got on that list, how do I actually make myself valuable? What is the meaning to my life? And these kind of striking questions, comes in the minds of young adults. Again, many years ago, psychologists tend to say that, you go through life crises, and these kind of questions kind of like hit you, existential questions as such. But who am I? What am I here to do? When you're in your 40s and your 50s. But now we know that it actually strikes at much younger ages. There is no formula to when that might happen. So touching upon this, whole notion of like meaning and meaning to life, I think that it is very important for people nowadays to actually take the time to ask themselves, what do I really want? And not a lot are actually placing attention on that. You might actually go into getting your undergrad diploma or degree because somebody else thought that this should be the path for you. Or you might even not know what you want. And so you end up being kind of like stuck and start wondering, what is this all about? Am I in the right place? And these kind of questions, the more you dwell into these kind of questions, you might find yourself in some kind of a cyclical, hopeless feel that maybe, this is not for me, and if it's not for me, then what? And all of that can lead to kind of depressing, states
Right.
of mind.
Right.
Now, that's not all dooming, and not to say that this has to stay like that. In fact, I've seen and I've worked with a lot of people that have gone through these, phases.
Yeah.
It is then the time to say, okay, Houston, we have a problem. Let's just find now more about what it is that I want. Let's really understand who am I, what ticks me, what drives me, what motivates me. Yeah, maybe I'm right now in the midst of my career or in the midst of my degree, but it's not all, it doesn't have to stay like that. I can still pursue with what I'm doing right now, but at the same time start to really, reflect on, okay, what's next for me?
Right.
And what else can I do? And all of this actually can pull you away from that notion of like lack of meaning onto actually transforming yourself into looking at things that are actually you're passionate about. So, for instance, you could volunteer at a place and find more meaning. You could decide to opt for a gap year and then, find out more about your needs and what you might want to do for yourself.
Right.
So these are kind of some of the things, that you can actually explore and help yourself be more fulfilled
Right.
and have a sense of meaning.
Right.
And kind of to touch upon the other element that you were talking about, which is anxiety.
Yeah.
That leads us to the whole concept of, perhaps I would say, futuristic sense. A lot of times, when I work with people, I find that anxiety can stem from thinking a lot about how my future would be like.
Right.
Now, of course, we all, want to sit and think about and plan our future. That's one. But, revisiting the future and staying in the future are two different things.
Right.
So again, going back to the whole concept of mindfulness that we were talking earlier about, it's the ability to actually stop yourself, to notice, okay, now I'm aware that I'm too much in my future. Let me bring myself back onto the present moment.
Right.
So that's definitely one of the things that would help when you feel kind of anxious, which is an elevated mode of being stressed, basically.
Right. Right.
When it's way too much and your systems can't take it anymore. And then your body, in fact, when you're anxious, your body and your mind are talking. By the way, they're constantly in connection with one another.
Yeah.
And when they do that, they're actually signaling to you that you have to do something about it. And so that's one. Another thing is that there's sometimes tendencies, for all of us as human beings, to think in a very polarized manner. So in other words, it's black and white. It's either I get it or I don't. Either I get the job or I'm getting fired.
Yeah.
Either this I'm gonna have that. The date is gonna be successful. It's gonna be completely a failure.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And these kind of notions, these kind of thinking, are actually getting us into. We're getting ourselves actually stressed. We're getting ourselves anxious with these kind of mindset.
Yeah.
So the idea is, and I'd like to tell people, I like to walk on the gray area.
Right.
Life is not just black. Life is really not black and white. There's a lot going on in between. So just give yourself the time to really explore and look into what's in between. And it's okay that things are just okay. The world is not perfect, we are not perfect, nature is certainly not perfect. It's about the imperfection that makes things beautiful. And that is my take.
That's actually a very, very beautiful thing, saying that it's just okay, and it's sometimes okay to just take a, I would say, a break and think about your present rather than keep going back to the future state, because that's where anxiety stems from. Great. So, Prof, fantastic. We talked about anxiety, we talked about depression. Now, I'm going to get to a very crucial question over here. There is a stigma around these topics, right? And people are not open to talk about it. More so over, there is this barrier of seeking professional help because the society judges you. What are your thoughts on that? How can a young adult, I think be it anyone, how can anyone actually cross that barrier of seeking professional help? Professional help.
Fantastic question, and I'm gonna answer that with a question, if I may.
Okay, sure.
Shall I, Kanika?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, when you feel unwell, let's say you have a headache, what would you do?
I would go to a doctor, or I would, if it gets worse, I would go to a doctor. Otherwise, I would take some medicine so that I can feel better. Because you can't live with that headache for long. And it stops you doing some things you want to.
Yeah. So you take medicine, and then if you feel like the pill doesn't seem to work, you're just going to take it to the next level and go and see a doctor.
True.
So, I mean, a lot of times, when we feel like, as I said earlier, the mind and our body really speak.
Yeah.
They're really very much in connection.
Yeah.
And in this case, along the years, we've really resolved that side of us of like taking care of our physical needs and meeting, those needs and making sure that we are not in pain physically.
Yeah.
But then we forgot the other side, the other part, which is our mind, that we can't really function without. Can you imagine a person walking without a mind?
Yeah.
Right. And so, going with that thought, I'd say it would make very, perfect sense in a way, a very normal occurrence to actually work on these two elements.
Right.
Because when one is missing, then we've got what you call, the alignment is not there.
Yeah.
And then it's not really balanced.
True.
So that is something that I think we all want to really think about next time when our heart is broken.
So, Prof, everything that we have talked about, right, is centered around one thing: our need and our desire to be happy all the time. So, what exactly is happiness? Just throw some light on the concept of happiness.
Okay, I'm glad you're asking me this question because nowadays you hear about happiness everywhere. In fact, if you go to any place and you look into the section of self-help, you would find literally like thousands and loads of materials about happiness and tips about how to be happy and how you get yourself into that happiness mode. So thank you for asking this. I think it's really saturated, I'll be very honest, the whole concept. That's how I see it.
Right.
Happiness is not something we can order. And we cannot we cannot instantly snap our finger and say, okay, happy now. Let's get inside a room and we'll be happy. Happiness is very much, again, a mindset. It's something that you cultivate. It's something that comes from within.
Right.
We, again, living in the world that we are living today, when everything is high-paced and everything actually happens very quickly. When you think about the culture of getting things very quickly, in this so-called hedonism, like view, whereby I want to get my needs met right now. And to some extent we all do, so look at the fast food industry and look at various other industries which you are actually snapping your finger and you're getting everything right at that moment very quickly. You don't need to wait for it. You don't need to work hard for it. And I think that somehow contradicts the whole concept of life and happiness in general. Because in life we don't always get things very quickly. So in fact, in life, sometimes you do need to work hard, and good things are actually worthwhile working for. So taking the example of relationships, because I'm working with people on relationships, a lot, in breakups and so on and so forth. The whole concept of being in love versus loving is something that also comes, in relationships. A lot of times, we start off, with this, like notion that everything is fantastic and you're like heads over heels, and you do see that also in the, in movies and in other, parts of, the world, where this whole notion of like, that's fantastic, everything is great, everything is is satisfying in the moment. However, when the butterflies go away, then what?
Yeah.
So taking that concept and understanding that, okay, the next stage is actually really working more and really investing more into what you value, because at the end of the day, the things that we work the most on are the things that we value.
True. So, Prof, we've had an amazing conversation, and there's so much to we've learned, and we're going to take away with us. I was really excited to hear that there's some really new cool programs that you are rolling out here in S P Jain. So, just throw some light on the initiatives that you're taking.
All right. Okay. I have to say that I'm very proud of the baby program that we have, which is a psychology club.
Okay.
It's basically a personal growth program
Okay.
where students actually sign up,
Okay.
and it is a closed group,
Okay.
and throughout the semesters from beginning till the end of the year, we're working on enhancing different parts of yourself. We're utilizing things like psychodrama, bringing about a lot of life skills such as communication, nonverbal communication. All of this is a fantastic way for students to have a stage as such, like a platform where they can actually grow their leadership skills.
Wow.
And their abilities to learn to communicate better with people around them.
Okay.
So when they go out and venture out
Yeah.
in any kind of industry that they choose to,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they're going to be working with people.
Great.
So that would really give them an added value and ability to connect better.
Great.
So we've got that.
Okay.
At the same time, I like to. I have a corner which is called Friday Food for Thought,
Okay.
whereby I send weekly emails to the staff and the students, internally throughout all our campuses of S P Jain.
Oh, okay.
And that is, comes in the form of a quote, and then a couple of statements whereby people can actually relate to.
Right.
It can trigger them to think about their lives.
Right.
And what a better way to do that before you start your weekend.
True.
To think about and to stop and think about yourself, think about your life.
Wish I could go back to school again, but I think that's a great idea. I want to put that in, in my company to do it for our staff, because I'm pretty sure they're very stressed, the kind of work we do. But that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Anything else that you would want to share?
I just want to say that I enjoyed this interview tremendously as well.
And
I
we
wanna
did as
thank
well,
you.
and I'm hoping that all the viewers who watch us have definitely something to take away. So just concluding lines, something that you would want to end with for all our viewers, because they're young adults who are going through so much, but yet we know there's always a ray of hope. There is a present that we should focus on, and then there is happiness that everyone is seeking. So what's your concluding message?
I think that my concluding message is a statement which I thoroughly believe in. That is, be yourself, and learn to be content with who you are, because there's always going to be more, and there's always background noise, and there's always people telling you and society telling you what to do and how to go about. At the end of the day, we come back to ourselves.
Right.
And so this is the place where we grow. This is the place, this is our best investment. You yourself, you're your own investment. So I want to really suggest to all the viewers and in general, just come back to yourself and align yourself and know who you are, and the rest will follow.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Prof. It was really a very good morning for us, and I'm guessing that there'll be a lot for us to learn from. Thank you so
very much.